It's plastic. It's most likely beige or black, and it sounds like this.
I'm Brindley Evans, and this is my recorder playing.
Chances are, if you grew up in Ontario, you were part of a chorus of tinny and shrill-sounding plastic recorders. Playing it was non-negotiable. Remember sitting in rows of desks, learning to play Old MacDonald, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, the person behind you hitting their recorder against your head. But why, years later, in a world wrapped up in teaching coding and AI, are we still learning to play the recorder? Lee Cochrane teaches music for Windsor Essex Catholic School Board. He works with elementary students. He teaches the recorder, and he joins me in the studio to help sort of change our tune, hopefully. Good morning, Lee.
Good morning. How are you?
So I'm well, thank you. And this is going to be fun. So let's start, first of all. How did you get to be the one that teaches people the recorder?
Well, I'm from actually outside the Ottawa area, and I grew up as a drummer and a guitar player. And then I went to Sudbury, I went to Cochrane College, and I went to Laurentian University to study music.
I have family in Sudbury.
Oh, nice. There you go.
I know. I love being among the Northerns. Do you remember learning the recorder?
I do remember learning the recorder actually in grade 6. I had a music teacher, and he used to take us outside to play the recorder. We would all get to go on our own, kind of in the schoolyard, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you didn't know his ulterior motive.
We're not in the class, right? So,
so you didn't have to sit in those rows of learning the recorder.
I'm sure we did a couple times, but that's the one thing that I remember the most is being outside and doing the recorder.
And do you think that was a gateway for you to learn other instruments?
At that time, I had already started the drums a little bit, so I was really into music. But it definitely introduced me to playing a pitched instrument because I had never played piano or anything like that before. So, and it kind of really sparked more of an interest, yeah. And having a passionate teacher at that level, too, really helped.
Looking back now that you teach the recorder, do you think having you play outside was maybe more than just giving you the freedom of the yard?
It could have been being a teacher, 100%. And it was June, so maybe he just wanted to get everybody outside to blow off some steam. But I do remember him sitting with, a group of us and showing us stuff. And he brought his guitar one time, and I thought that was really cool to see.
It obviously left an impact on you.
It really did. It really did.
So I want you to help us appreciate the recorder a bit more than its sort of pitch. So let's have a bit of a history lesson. What is the history of the recorder? Where did it come from?
Well, it's from the Renaissance and Middle Ages, and it was basically for royalty, first of all. It was wooden back then, made usually out of a lot of fruit woods and different kinds of woods. And then it kind of got passed down as to more wealthy people would be able to buy it, and then the common folk would be able to do it. And it kind of kept going on from there. There's been many composers have written pieces for the recorder as well, like Bach and Vivaldi.
Yeah, I did a bit of research before you came in for me to have a bit more of an appreciation. And it wasn't until the 1960s it became plastic.
Right.
And why do you think they made that shift?
I think it's just for a cost-effective point for instruments in schools, because back then it was like $2-3 a recorder, and they were using more Orff instruments at that time too, right? So basically those Orff instruments are really easy to play. Basically you can blow or strike a note with a stick, and you make instant sound. So it's much easier for elementary students to learn.
We often talk about the recorder. I don't know why, but our conversations sometimes wrap around back to the recorder. And one of our listeners was asking, why is it called a recorder when it doesn't record anything? What's the answer to that?
It's basically to recite melody back to you, right? So back in those times, a lot of players would actually trade songs with one another, right? Or they would, I'll teach you this song if you can give me this. That's what they would do back in the Middle Ages and the Baroque times too.
How did it become this clumsy, awkward sound we now play?
Like in classrooms right now?
Yeah, how did it get in the classroom?
Well, just because, again, it was cheaper to use, and it's easy for students to play right away. They can make a sound right away, and it gets them going. Like, it's not hard to start off, because they can make a sound very, very easily.
And why is that the instrument that was chosen for kids? Is it because there's no strings or reeds that they just use?
That's right. There's no strings or reeds. There's no plucking, blowing. There's no you don't have to add extra parts. You just learn basically how to hold it, and you're off to the races.
How difficult is it for you to teach kids?
Right now, it's not really difficult getting them to make a sound. That part's easy. Getting them to do the other stuff, to do it properly, that's the hard part.
What's the other stuff?
Well, basically, hand positioning. So you should have your left hand on top, right hand on the bottom.
Oh, I already failed.
Yeah. So what this does basically is set you up to play other instruments when you get to the secondary level or later on in grade 7 and 8, because saxophone and clarinet, they have the same hand positioning. And it teaches you about proper embouchure, proper breath control. So it's really setting you up to play the other instruments later on.
How much are the fundamentals of playing the recorder used with other instruments? You seem to have touched on that a fair amount, but how much what I learned in grade 4 was applied when I later, played the piano, or as Tom was talking, playing the guitar, playing...
Well, basically, what it does is it helps your fine motor skills. So, because you're playing the recorder, you have to really have the proper positioning of your fingers to go on the holes, and you can't just slap them down. They have to go on properly. So, if you switch to a clarinet or a saxophone, you have to make sure your hands are in the right position as well, and you're not just slapping them down all over the place. They have to be in the precise moment.
Okay, grab your recorder.
Sure.
I want you to show me, because I've already found out. I'm picking up mine. Mine is of the teal-colored family.
Okay.
It is a Easter. I don't know if
Okay.
that means anything. Easter.
Okay.
I always put my right hand on top, but that is not correct.
No. So I tell all students you should have your left hand on top. And because you can play it with your right hand on top, but the problem is when you get down to the bottom here, this is usually turned to the right. So
The
if you're
bottom being this piece that comes off.
That's right, yeah. So if you're playing it and it's to the right, your left hand can't reach it because there's 2 holes in those bottom ones.
And our hands were so little when we were
very little, I know,
I
I
know,
know.
and I could never reach.
I know.
Now I can reach.
There you go.
Maybe there's a future. Okay, so what do I do? Can you give me? Okay, so we'll do the left hand. That feels
Okay.
awkward. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
it will
right-handed.
feel awkward, yeah, because you're not used to it. Yep.
My
and
husband
then,
would thrive at this. He's left-handed. Okay. All right.
And then what you want to do is have just the tip of it in your mouth.
Okay.
And what you're going to do is say basically inside your mouth the word to. So that way you're not blowing so much air coming out of the recorder, because if you blow too much, there's too much air trying to escape this hole here, and it basically distorts.
Okay.
Right? So if you try that right in your mouth or in the
Okay.
tip and just say to. But yeah, so if you say multiple twos, you'll get single notes. That's right, and it's cleaner. So if you're blowing, you'll just blow too fast.
It already sounds better. I missed you in grade 4. I loved Mrs. Schofield, but I think maybe this was the start. So what's the first song that you teach? I mean, I think Three Blind Mice is really the only thing I remember, but is there something that you usually start with that's easier to learn the fundamentals?
What I do myself is I teach some harmony first. So what I'll do is I'll split the kids up into groups, and basically if you're playing one note and I'm playing a different note using a chord, and there's 3 groups, I'll be using a triad, they play together and they instantly hear 3 notes at the same time.
Okay, can we do something
Sure.
together?
So if you have your thumb here,
Yeah.
yep, and then your first finger down, this is your B. So if you go ahead and play that.
B. I'm
Yeah,
learning notes
okay,
on the recorder.
okay. And then if you play and I play at the same time, it'll harmonize. So instantly they immediately hear the chords and they're like, oh, this is fun. And then I slowly get into reading
This
the notes.
is fun. I am becoming a bit of a recorder believer. I think my experience, I loved Mrs. Schofield so much. She played the accordion. But it wasn't like this. And I think maybe there's been advances that we weren't aware of. So you teach, obviously I didn't even know that was a B. Maybe I did back then. But what's the next one?
The next one will be A.
Okay, so if I play A and you play something else?
I'll play a C. Yep.
Can we do the 2 together?
Yeah,
the
sure.
B-A? Okay. That was great. Mike, what do you think? Do you think we pass for some type of band over here? Oh, he says maybe.
I'm going on the road.
I want my Juno. I'm a good backup recorder player.
Kelsey Main is standing by, and she's able to watch you guys through the camera, and she gave you the thumbs up.
Kelsey Main, our next guest. I appreciate you coming in and doing this, Lee. This is
my
just
pleasure.
so pleasurable. And I think as we move forward here on Windsor Morning and have many conversations that seem to always come back to the recorder, I think we will be speaking a different tune. So I appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Lee Cochrane teaches music at Windsor Essex Catholic School Board. This morning he was here teaching us about the recorder and the appreciation. Do you have a new appreciation? Text us 519-984-2051.